Why have I been putting such high levels of expectation on myself? I have never in my 7 years of coaching ever put those expectations on another client. So why was I doing it to me? Hello, Jade here from The Rawsome Truth. Today I'm going to do a video on why I'll never be perfect. You're probably thinking, well, nobody is. Of course nobody is. None of us are ever perfect. But that took a long, long time for me to accept. For years and years and years, I strived to be absolutely perfect. I was never satisfied with my imperfections, and it's taken me a long time for me to be happy within myself and say, you know what, I'm perfectly happy and I'm perfectly perfect with all my perfect imperfections. Does that make sense? Why did I change myself so much? Or did I change? I honestly don't believe I changed. So many people have said to me, my goodness, you've changed so much. And I guess on the outside I have changed so much. But for me, I believe I'm finally being myself and being really true to myself. I've been coaching people for 7 years. And prior to that, I was doing a lot of work on myself. I've been sober for nearly 10 years. And when I became sober, I put such high expectations on myself. And I didn't actually realise until I look back now and reflect and say, wow, gosh, you did so much to make yourself up here. And I think it may have part of it might have been a confidence thing. I think a lot of it was that I was masking still a lot of pain, and I didn't have my addiction to fall back on, especially when I started taking away my food addiction as well. I had nothing to sort of mask that pain. So I took up shopping addiction, and I'm going to do a video on that. That'll be in tomorrow as well, my shopping addiction. And that was probably the last of my addictions that I had to mask every bit of problems. So what was the one thing that I could take control of? Me. And boy, did I put some control on me. To the extent of everything had to be perfect. My hair was always perfect, perfectly coloured, perfectly styled. I'd spend hours doing it every day. Look at me today. I've just grabbed a clip and I've just sort of whacked it in. But that I'm happy like that. My makeup was always done. It was always perfect. I always had my makeup on. Always dressed immaculately. Always wearing designer brands. Always spending a fortune on making sure I had designer brands. And when I say I was perfect, to the degree of everything was perfect. You know, if I wore a little jumper, I wore a little shirt underneath, the collar was perfect, and I'd have these gorgeous shoes to match, and this, you know, bell skirt, and everything was perfect. I was so hard on myself with my weight that I would exercise and exercise and exercise. To the extent, I guess you could say, I was a bit orthorexic with my health and nutrition. Now, I wasn't following a raw diet then, but I was following a calorie control diet, and I wanted to be super skinny. And I was super skinny. I mean, I was very, very little. I was 10 kilos lighter than I am now, and at one stage I got down to about 14 kilos lighter, so I was really small. I'll put in a photo of just how small that I actually got, and you can see that I was small. I loved how I looked. I'd look at myself and go, but it was never enough. It was never enough. I'd still pick parts apart and say, oh, your bum's still too big. Oh, you're still, you're still holding weight in your thighs. And I think now, wow, I had a lot less weight then than I did now. So, at one stage I was getting up at 4:30 every morning so that I could get to Mount Lofty. This was 3 times a week. I was climbing Mount Lofty, which it takes about, I got down to 39 minutes getting up there. But, some people can take an hour and a half to get there. But that was the pressure I put on myself. I remember doing it with my daughter one day, and she'd say, "Mum, calm down." And I was breathing like, because it's very steep incline, and I was putting so much pressure on myself all the time because I wanted to be faster, I wanted to be better, I wanted to be stronger, I wanted to be fitter, I wanted to be slimmer. Everything that I put on myself, and it was crazy. So I was doing that 3 times a week, getting up so early and then working 12-hour days. Usually I'd start work at 9, but I wouldn't finish work 7:38, but then when I come home I'd have to do paperwork from all the I was running weight loss meetings, from all the weight loss meetings that I did, because I was working for a company. I'd have to put all that into the computer, all the statistics, all, you know, the money I received and everything else. So I'd be up at night doing that. So I was putting heavy pressure on myself. The other days I was going to a gym at 6 in the morning, and I was doing like boxing. It was heavy intensity, and I was also doing running. I was running up to 50 kilometres a week. Always do a 20-kilometre run on a Sunday. Heavy exercise. So I was doing heavy exercise. I was calorie restricting, and I was heavily calorie restricting. I was living on about 1,200 calories a day, but some days I'd have less, and then other days then it would trigger me and I would have a binge. Then I would beat myself up because I wasn't perfect, and I would look at myself and say, look at you, you can't even do this, you're a failure. And I would say absolutely dreadful things to myself. I would speak to myself like I would never speak to another human being the way I spoke to myself. It was shocking. It was shocking what I would do to myself. So then I would restrict. I would starve myself because I'd say, oh my God, I'm going to lose weight. I would sometimes weigh myself 3 to 4 times a day. I had complete access to scales all the time, and because I drove from meeting to meeting, when I say meeting to meeting, they were weight loss meetings, and I would set up scales for the people coming in. I would always check the scale, so I'm weighing myself throughout the day. Can you imagine what that does to your head? Because your body fluctuates probably 2 to 3 kilos during the day, depending on how much fluid you've had, depending on what you've eaten. I mean, I might have had something a bit salty than usual, so my body might be retaining more water and I weigh a bit more. And this would all just be completely messing with my head. So I'd be like, oh my God, I've got to not eat, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. It just was an absolute nightmare. And not to mention speaking badly to myself. So I had all of this going on. I'm heavily exercising. I probably wouldn't have been sleeping enough. But not just that, I used to put such pressure on myself to make absolutely everything. So, I mean, back then I was eating bread, and back then I was eating, drinking milk. I was having almond milk, which I would make myself from scratch. I was having bread, which I would make myself from scratch. And you're probably thinking, well, okay, so you made all that from scratch. I was working massive days. I was working 6 days a week. I was putting all this pressure on myself with exercise. I wasn't sleeping enough. I wasn't eating enough. And something had to give. And it eventually did. My feet packed up on me. I ended up with plantar fascia, but I had extreme plantar fascia. Not just a little bit, where you have a little couple of days rest, put some ice on it, and yeah, it's better. But once I had my x-rays and that, because I got to a point where I was running, I was about 10k into my run, and my feet had been hurting for months. But I'm just one of these people that I say, come on, and I just kept pushing through it because my obsession with looking fantastic. And I had an obsession with looking fantastic. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to look fantastic, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to look great, and there's nothing wrong with any of that. But when it's affecting your mental well-being, it then becomes a problem. So what did I do? 10k's into the run, try to push forward. Come on. And my feet finally just said to me, I don't think so. You've pushed me around for far too long. I'm taking control here. So my body took control and said, you're not even walking another step. So I had to ring my partner, come and pick me up. And of course, he was lecturing me because he gets very annoyed. He has been very annoyed with me over the years with my obsession with my health. And not that I loved being healthy, he didn't have a problem with that, but to the extreme obsession where I was damaging my body. And you can imagine, rah, 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 and I'm saying, yeah. Anyway, I ended up going to the doctors. I had x-rays, and the plantar fascia was about that thick in my feet. And they said, the only way you're going to heal this is with acupuncture. Well, I'm petrified of needles. I said, oh, I'm not getting acupuncture. So we searched, and I found a doctor who did laser treatment. And I had 12 sessions of that. But that was spaced over 20 weeks. I had to have a couple of weeks off because I went over to Bali and had a holiday, as I do. And so that put me a little bit behind. But by this stage, once I had the first session, I started walking a lot better on my feet, and then better and better. I haven't ever gone back to heavy running since this. The most I'll run is probably 5K. I don't even think I'd be able to do that now. Probably 2K would be my limit that I would be able to physically be able to do, because my fitness levels aren't where they were. I was extremely fit. But then, of course, my obsession for my health and whatever just didn't stop there. I said, oh, well, I'll just take up lifting weights. Signed up to the gym, bang, started doing strength training. I am a qualified fitness instructor, so I know how to do all these things. It wasn't like, oh, how am I going to do it? I said, okay, in I go, I'll do that. Anyway, my body was telling me, I want you to heal. I'm telling you to heal. Don't start taking up everything else and keep your obsession with all your exercise going to this degree and working the long hours and starving yourself and starving your body of nutrition. I'm telling you, you can't keep doing this. So I did my back end. So there we go. I did my back, my feet, and everything else. And then things started to go a little bit crazy at home. And I was just like, okay, next thing you know, I've had a semi-breakdown. And I started to really assess everything and started to say, you know what? What have I been doing to myself? Why have I been putting such high levels of expectation on myself? I have never in my 7 years of coaching ever put those expectations on another client. So why was I doing it to me? Why was I being my own worst enemy? Because I hadn't learned to do one thing that was so important, and that was to love me. And I had to learn to love me. I had to learn to deal with all my pain and anger and everything else. And through learning to love myself, I learned that it's okay that you're not perfect. And now I deliberately don't care. And when I say I don't care, I love myself enough to be clean. I love myself enough to be hygienic, and I love myself enough to put the right foods into my body. But I love myself enough to be gentle on myself too. And that's a big thing. I have relapses sometimes where I do still start to beat myself up because bad habits, and it was a bad habit of years and years, because even when in my drinking days and prior to my drinking days, I was beating myself up so much. That's what I knew. I knew how to beat myself up. So to fight beating myself up, I had to put the bar so high that I couldn't. It was just too much. It was just too much for me. And that's when I started to realise, you know what, Jade? You've been doing great things with your life. You know, you've improved so much in your life from where you've been to where you are now, and it's taking gradual steps. And I started to stop and assess and say, you know what? It doesn't matter if you can't do everything. You don't have to be everything to everyone, and you don't have to be this level of perfection. So now I don't worry. And I put myself out there nearly every day on YouTube. And there are days where I'm not perfect on YouTube. There's many, many days. My food's never perfect. I mean, I've got where's the glass jar? You know, there's my celery juice. Where's the glass jar? I don't have a glass jar. I'm travelling. I don't always have my hair perfect. I don't always have my clothes perfect. I might have my pajamas on because it's first thing in the morning and I'm showcasing what I'm eating. I might have just got out of the pool and I've got my bathers on. I might be covered in sweat and my face like a beetroot because it's so hot here. And that's okay. That is okay. It's okay to not be perfect. I have taken a long time to realise that. And I'm so grateful that I'm only nearly 40. So I've still got many years to enjoy all my imperfections. And I do admit, when you're younger, we do put higher levels on ourselves because we haven't been probably through as much, in your 20s, we haven't been through as much by the time we get to 40. And I'm sure by the time I'm 50 and by the time I'm 60, I'm going to go through so much more again in my life that by then I'm going to say, take me as I am, but at 20 and whatever, we haven't lived the life that, we're living now, that I've lived now, where I say, what, I've been through so much in my life that, the fact that I get up every morning and say, hey, I'm here and life's good is enough. And for any of you watching who have been through a lot in your life, and let's face it, life has a funny way of shaking us up at the right time. We might think it's the wrong time at the time, but it has a funny way of shaking us up where we say, you know what, I've got to reassess things. I've got to make things work for my life. And if you can take the knowledge of everything that you've been through in your life and you've grown from that and look back and say, I'm doing okay. And that's what I do now. I say, I'm doing okay. I don't need to be perfect. I don't need to have this bar so high on myself. All I need to do is wake up every morning and say, Jade, I love you. Every part of you, you're far from perfect and you ain't ever going to be perfect, but that's okay. And that's what you need to do for yourself, is just tell yourself you are enough. And in this world, we have to tell ourselves we're enough because there are many, many people who want to rip us apart. But don't you be one of those people ripping yourself apart. Be captain of your own cheer squad. Be your own mascot. And most importantly, be your own lover. And when you're that, you're okay that you're not perfect, because I'll never be perfect, and I'm okay with that. Thanks for watching. I'm Jade. This is the Rawsome Truth. Subscribe to my channel. Link this to someone else if you think it might help them. And remember, love life, love yourself, live free. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.